Welcome back, guys, to another episode of Plug In Your Mind. Today I have my co-host, Jay.
Hey, what's up, everybody, man? Welcome back.
Chin is not here today, but Chin, we miss you.
We do.
We miss you and we love you, girl.
Much love, Chin. Shout out to my sister, Chin.
Yes, for those who don't know, Chin is going to have a baby in the next week and a half, so she's going to be absent for a while, so she's going to try and make it for certain episodes, but we love you, girl.
We love you, Chin. You know what I mean? Much love. And like I said, our prayers are with you with a safe and nourishing blessing of delivery of the child. So we're looking forward to that time. By the way, just some names for suggestions. Jasonella for a girl.
Oh, geez.
Jason Jr. for a boy. Just putting that out there.
So how you been doing?
It's been mad busy. I've been very well, but super busy. But I'm just glad to be back with my co-host here, P. You know what I mean? Grateful. I just found out that my good brother, DJ Fire King, is out here in Toronto. So shout outs to Fire King, my dude King, man. Shout outs. Much love, my brother. Look forward to seeing you on the show, too.
Yes, indeed. Today we have an interesting topic for you guys. Let's get into it.
Let's go.
Can we learn lessons from poverty?
Wow. So you're going to start off like that? We've been off for a couple of weeks and you're going to...
I know.
Whoa. You know what?
Yeah, let's just get right into it. Come on, let's just get right into it.
Yeah, because the listeners are here.
Yes.
They want to tune in, plug in your mind. Can we learn? I think we can. I honestly think we can. And it's interesting because we can break it down, you know, and like we both experience poverty.
Yes, in some way,
right?
Yes.
To some extent, right? And you can see poverty is like a global thing. So we're going to break it down because we want our listeners and all you listeners out here to understand, can you relate? Share your experiences, man. We want your feedback, you know, because we're going to break it down. So poverty.
Let's start off with what is poverty?
What is poverty?
Now, I looked up this, and poverty means not having enough money for basic needs such as food, drinking water, shelter, that type of stuff.
The basic necessities,
Yes.
lack thereof.
So even if you don't have enough money, that's poverty too.
Yeah. So I feel like poverty almost every other day. It's crazy. Like poverty, I like the way you broke that down because it's just those lacking of necessities. And I can relate. And it's interesting because people look at poverty if it's a curse, a circumstance, or a choice. So how do you perceive that, P? Do you think it's like, you know, they're born to be poor? Or do you think it's a circumstance, they put themselves in that situation? Or do you think that they choose to be poor?
Okay, I'm going to start off by saying it's not a curse. We're just going to drop that curse. It's not a curse.
It's not a curse, okay.
No, it's not a curse. I'm going to say it's probably a circumstance and a choice. No, there are different levels of poverty. And with that different levels, like something like a generational poverty, then that would be a choice, right?
Yeah.
So generational poverty is a type of poverty that involves birth of two generations into poverty. Because they were born into this situation, they usually do not have the tools to help get themselves out of it. So that would be a choice, you know, like if my mom was poor before and I came into this world and, you know, I would be in poverty too, you know.
Absolutely.
It's a situational thing for me, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's a circumstance and choices. And, you know, we have to be mindful out there of how we're spending our money.
Oh, yes.
Because all our choices, they do have consequences.
They do.
And sometimes we put ourselves in those situations.
Absolutely.
So using those credit cards, that's not our money. That's the bank's money. The bank's money plus interest.
Yes.
It is not our money.
I agree. It's interesting you mentioned that because I agree with you. Circumstance and choice, I don't really look at it more of a curse.
Yeah.
And one thing, how you mentioned how generational and situational, I kind of look into relative poverty. Now, for those who are not familiar, all our listeners, with relative poverty, this type of poverty is known as relative because it is relative to the average standard of living in that person's society. What is considered high income in one country could be considered middle or low income in another. If a family's income isn't enough to meet the average standard of living, they are considered to be in a relative poverty category. And I find that very interesting because growing up, I'm originally born and raised in the Jane and Finch area.
Yes.
And I looked at that as poverty. Like, I seen a lot in my neighborhood. Grew up pretty much maybe not having a lot until I realized when I looked around in a different environment with social media today, growing up, or just going into a different environment in general, I realized, wait a minute, I don't think poverty is as bad as compared to these individuals over here or this family in this country.
Yes.
And so, like, for me, I never had all the clothes. My mom provided the basics as best as she could. But in regards to, I don't know how it feels to starve, to have that, my belly just aching in pain, and then when I look on, like, what happens around the world, I look at places, and I'm not disrespecting because I know every country has the rich and poor.
Yes.
But I look in areas, like I looked into Africa and parts of Asia.
Yes.
And I seen people looking through the rubbles, just looking for scraps to eat. I never been through that. And that brings a tear to my eye when I see things like that. It really hits me deep. So when it comes to relative, that one hits me hard. I love the fact that you mentioned on situational and generational.
Oh, I didn't mention situational as yet.
Oh, was it generational?
Yes, generational.
Oh, my apologies. You're going to touch on situational.
Yes.
Okay.
I haven't touched on the situational, but relative is an interesting one too.
It is.
So, like, how we're working here, and I'm from Trinidad, the Caribbean. So,
shout out TNT, by the way.
Yes. Shout out all my Caribbean people out there. Big up yourself. You know how it is. Like, you work here for your money. You work real hard, and you go back home, and I'm not saying you're living like a king and a queen, but you're living like the Benjis. But your money goes a long way.
Of course.
So 5 to 1. Hey,
Yep.
you feeling sort of rich.
Absolutely.
So I'm not no middle class. I may be high class society out there. Because I got that money. Because it's just that. So I'm just like, oh my gosh. But I could understand that relative thing. And, your family members too, because I guess they always constantly thinking about that too, like,
of course,
you work here and you have that money, and then when they exchange, they're always comparing the exchange rate. So they think that you have a whole bunch of money in abundance,
Yep.
So that one is a very interesting one. You're so right about that.
Yeah.
You could just take your money and go to another country and you could be living like
you said,
a star,
a star,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. It's very true.
Let me talk on situational, because I think
please.
a lot of people could relate on this, because this could be for anybody out there, even for you, Jay, and for myself. So situational poverty, this is a particular type of poverty, is usually temporary, and as it involves a crisis or loss occurring. So it could be something in an events connecting with situational poverty include environmental disasters, divorce, or severe health problems.
Yeah.
So, like Katrina, for example, a lot of people lost their jobs. A lot of people lost their homes.
Yeah.
And they didn't have nowhere to go.
Sure.
And they end up being in poverty.
Yeah.
And for most of these people, they probably didn't even have insurance on their home or life insurance for any sort of crisis that may arise in their own personal lives.
Absolutely.
So I'm pretty sure if a lot of them had some type of insurance, it probably would have saved them from not being in that poor or that poverty level,
Yeah.
So situation, this could happen to any of us. We can get sick and we can't work.
Yeah.
And we gotta be home taking care of ourselves or in the hospital, and we have no source of income.
It's true.
So this could be any of you guys out there.
Absolutely. And it's interesting that you mentioned New Orleans, because I believe to this day there's people who still haven't fully recovered from that situation. Like, I remember watching that on television, and can you imagine or envision you're home and you're seeing other human beings living their lives in a Superdome stadium.
Yeah.
And you got to use the washroom there, you got to sleep there, and there's like packed tons of people in there, crammed in there. It's a devastating situation, right? And it just really makes you think. Like, it keeps you in a humble mind state, because there's times where we can be very ungrateful.
Oh, definitely.
And we think that we don't have enough until we really see or put our feet in someone else's shoes.
Yes.
And it's interesting because I like to touch on, you mentioned situational. and just for the fact, these are different levels of poverty for all listeners tuning in. It's just not just one form. It's
Yes.
very versatile in being in poverty for that matter. And another attribute to poverty is rural poverty. And it is like urban poverty above, rural poverty occurs only in specific area types. These areas are non-metropolitan with populations below 50,000. The low population limits services available for people struggling financially, and a lack of job opportunities only compounds, since we talked about interest earlier,
Yes.
only compounds the problem. And to be honest with you, I always loved the countryside, but I never would imagine or want to predict being in a poverty condition in that type of environment. Like I grew up always in the city, right? So when it comes to rural, I always thought about just like, you have the country, grow your own crops, you have your own land.
Yeah, they're out there fending for themselves
Yeah.
because they're not in city life, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, they like all the natural, actually not even natural, all the resources that we have here in the city, they probably don't have.
It's rough.
And if they do have it, it's in their town.
Yeah,
And their
exactly.
town is maybe like an hour or 2 hours away from,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It really hits me. I always think about the South of the United States and southern regions of the world. It's just like, that's the visual I get when I think of rural poverty.
Oh yeah, definitely. You could see in countries like in Asia and in Africa and those things.
Yeah.
Even when you go to the Caribbean too,
Yeah.
people who are living in like areas that you probably never go.
It's true.
And you realize there's people there, like they're just in their own area, like
Yeah.
in the bush. You
That's
just
it.
didn't even know that they were there,
It's true.
So yeah, this is definitely a tough one too.
It's true. And you know what's interesting? Because, do we actually think how much, because for us who are working, how many paychecks are you away from being poverty? Like, I'm not trying to put anyone's financial disclosure on blast, right? But P, have you thought about this? And for all our listeners, how many paychecks are you away from being in poverty? Like, you ever thought about that?
I'm now thinking about it. I'm gonna say probably about maybe probably borderline by 3.
3.
Yeah. My job, I need my job. I'm not gonna lie, My
Yeah.
job is a big part of me just surviving.
Yeah, absolutely.
And after that 3 paychecks, I definitely would have to dip into my savings.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have to crack open the piggy bank.
Do you actually have a piggy bank? Do you actually have something like a little?
I have something that called a vacation fund. It's in a glass, and I put only bills in there.
Yeah.
So my son is like, "Ooh, you saving up for DR?" I was like, "No, I'm just saving up for something." He's like, "I'm gonna put some money in there for you." I said, "No."
Yeah.
But yeah, any little change that I have, I just add it in there. But listen, 3 paychecks and being in poverty, yeah. I live in Toronto and we have 4-season weather here, so you know how that goes.
Yeah.
You gotta pay for your hydro, your electricity. All these things are just,
Yeah.
I can't go in the bush and make a shed somewhere and live off of the land because it gets cold here. So
It's true.
I can't do that. Maybe if I was in the Caribbean, I'd definitely do that,
Yeah, of
Just
course.
go, no off the grid, Just go there by the beach side and, hitch up there and I done with that. But here, no, definitely. That's a rough one.
Yeah.
To realize that 3 paychecks, I do my job. I depend on that a lot.
Yeah.
100.
And you know what? And I appreciate your honesty because some people, they're like, nah, I'll be good until it really hits you, right? You're like, wait a minute, I've been sick for a couple of months. I mean, funds are running low, right? So, I mean, I can relate in that same situation. And so even though I do have a business as well, you still got to maintain because like the cost of living, as you can see, it's always going up.
The cost
So-
of living you're right.
Yeah.
It's never stops.
It never stops. And we live in a capitalistic country. So you got to always kind of balance or maintain, right?
Yes.
It's crazy. And it's interesting because I mentioned capitalistic, then I mentioned paychecks. So that brings us to our next breakdown. Does government do enough? For all those anti-governments and pro-governments, does government do enough to minimize poverty? What's your thoughts on that, P?
I would say yes. probably say they do 50-50.
Yeah.
Because we live in Canada and we're highly blessed out here,
I agree.
to be honest.
I agree.
And the government does have a lot of programs and incentives for low-income families.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, the government more supports single-family household than they support a family unit.
Yeah.
Even they want you to have a family unit, but they would more give money to a single parent to help them and do all of these things. So all of these resources are there for people with low income.
Yeah.
The thing is, you don't want to depend on them 100. You want to just depend on them temporary, like make it a situational poverty.
Yeah.
Be there temporary, and then you want to get yourself out of it.
Yeah.
Because staying in poverty, it doesn't help nobody.
You're right.
You do not make progress. You're just going to be stagnant.
Absolutely.
And you would want to come out of that because you can't go nowhere.
Absolutely.
I think even though the government helps you, you still have to help yourself to come out of poverty.
Yeah.
And the community, where the community needs to come together and have natural. Why I keep on saying natural? Resources. Just having resources, and having these programs and helping one another.
Yeah.
Not just one person, but coming together to
Yes.
help one another.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I co-sign to everything you said. And I remember as this topic was being kind of mixed up for this day, I remember talking to you, P. We were
Yes.
talking on the phone about, is there situations we can do? Because we see quite a few homeless people.
Yes.
But they look like, agile, physically fit people to be on the streets. So I remember asking you, and I just want she's
Yes,
smiling.
you did,
I remember asking you, and I just want to ask you again. And audience, feel free to answer this as well. Do you believe that to minimize that poverty, we can get those off the street to interact in services to help this city run a little smoother, like crossing guards or help with maybe garbage cleanup? Because like I said, we talked about it, like, wait a minute, why is there so much of homeless people on the streets that are able-bodied? They could at least work to maintain to get in return maybe food or maybe like a shelter. You know what I mean? As opposed to just sitting there and just begging for money. So is your thoughts still the same from the last couple of weeks that we spoke about?
Yes, I think I said yes. I think, yes, they would be able to do those things. I guess society there's a stigma behind them. We look at them like, oh my gosh, they're just a druggie or
or like a bum.
Get
out of here, bum.
A high school dropout or
Yeah.
whatever you're thinking about, But to be honest with you, we don't know what their situation is, you know. And yes, maybe sometimes these people, they may have been, they lost a family member and they just have lost they have lost hope,
You're right.
and they become where they don't go to work and they just fall off,
Absolutely.
They dig a grave for themselves and they're there and then they become homeless.
Yeah.
So they're living the street life. And then there's ones who are into, they do drugs and that type of stuff. There's that there too, and they get kicked out of their family home. They lose everything. So we don't know what these people's situations are to why they're on the street. I guess we just have that stereotype. Well, they're, like you say, they're bum, and we just put them in that bracket and just have them there in that box. But we never think of, these people are human beings too,
Oh, yeah.
Yes, they may have a problem. Yes, they are begging. Something is happening there. And they definitely need help.
Yes.
I guess if we were to take that time and realize that, hey, you know what, we can use these people, like you said, to go and clean up the areas, clean up the city, and do other things, and even help them out.
Yeah.
They could get back into society and just live a normal life like everybody else.
I co-sign to all of that. I mean, I'm just like, when you think about that, just think about putting ourselves in a situation like that. That's what I would want to do. I wouldn't want to just beg. I would just want to get involved somehow where I can get the means of food, shelter, sanitize supplies for myself. I mean, I'm willing to do that. I'm able-bodied, right? And that's the thing.
That even happens too when you come out of jail. They have those rehab programs.
Yes.
So, like you said, society already, we just put them there as, all right, well, they were a criminal and rah. But these people are coming back into society. So we should welcome them because they're coming back. They want to do good,
Yeah.
and make something of themselves. But it's important that we give them a chance for them to come back, because if we don't and we just shut them down, you know, they're going to be in poverty too, right?
Absolutely.
They're going to be on the streets too.
Yep. I once again, another cosign. And this is one thing, this is what we like to do. We like to plug into your mind. So viewers, when you hear this, feel free to leave your comments, because like I said, this is a broad topic. And it's not just about us. It's not just about P. It's not about Brother J, Sister Chin.
Yes,
it's about everyone who knows that this is a real issue and we're dealing with real people.
Definitely.
Right? So it's just keep it real. Stay locked in. Give us more information. Give us your thoughts. Speaking of thoughts, does poverty need to exist? I actually had to pause for this. I'm like looking at it, I'm like, this is the one that really hits the heart here, man. Does poverty need to exist to make us understand wealth? Very interesting question here. Once again, does poverty need to exist to make us understand wealth?
For me personally, I'm going to say no. Why should we be in poverty to understand what wealth is? Why aren't we understanding what wealth is before any of that hits the fan?
That's a good point.
I think money or managing money should be taught in schools and also at home, and how to manage your money. Because when you become an adult, this is the problem that happens out there. You just end up becoming, okay, I could buy this, I could, you just start living beyond your, your needs and your means and all these things. So you could get tied up in a lot of stuff.
True.
And with all the things that's happening in society, you would definitely be that person, that consumer out there buying all these things, and you're not realizing, oh my gosh, what's going to happen, Life is not that straight road that you're walking on. Life has all these ups and downs, and they come in many different forms, shapes, sizes, personalities, all these things. But we should just understand wealth before we even reach to that stage.
Yeah.
Understanding money is important.
Absolutely.
Especially as we reach an adult.
Yes. And you know what? I love that point. Great points, P. Well absorbed. This is probably one of the few times I'm going to have to throw a curveball at P and all the listeners. But I just feel that poverty needs to exist to understand wealth, because if you experience poverty, and so much people have, right? You don't want to go back there, especially real poverty. Like Thomas Sowell, he said it best. He's an economist, and he said, the pain of poverty got me out of poverty. And I'll repeat that one more time. The pain of poverty got me out of poverty. So when poverty hurts you that bad, you want to go do something. And it's not about just being wealthy and being flashy, flamboyant, doing the Ric Flair, woo, the dance. It's all about understanding where you came from and not wanting to go back, but also bringing people out of that environment too. You know what I mean? And it's not just about the physical thing. Just have a wealthy mindset. You know what I mean? Like, I believe, and I think you can co-sign with this too, P, health is wealth.
Oh, definitely. Right?
And when you're in poverty, it's really hard to be healthy, especially when, like we talked about, I think a couple of weeks ago, with so many good foods being so pricey. But then we also concluded that, you know what? It's worth buying it.
Yes.
Because your health, like I said, is wealth.
Yes.
Right? So I believe, like, even growing up in the poverty that I was in, like I said, I didn't like that environment. I didn't like walking with shoes that looked like sandals. Like, you know what I mean? I think I had the first Nike open toes. You know what I mean? Like, it was bad. I mean, like, some people had it worse, but again, that hurt me. I used to get picked on. I got laughed at.
Yeah.
So when I got older and I was able to buy these things for myself, you know what? To be honest, I understood that, you know what? Even though I can buy it, I don't need to buy it.
Yes.
I just know the fact that working hard and no one will hurt me before, I can just have a moderate, I guess a moderate balanced shoes, a modest shoe size or a modest shoe type. Because I realized even though I can buy that fancy shoe, I don't need to. But I know that I could.
Yeah.
Right? And so it had to stem from somewhere because, again, I didn't like being in poverty. And I don't think I'm the only one that understands and thinks like that. right? And this is what it's all about, just plugging into the mind and understand the concepts, right? So, viewers, I mean, you heard it from Sister P, you heard it from Brother J, you would have heard it from Sister Chin, but she's not here. But definitely, I mean, she would have give good insight as well. But we want to know your thoughts as well, because we're getting to that point. Oh, I'm sorry. Before we get to that point, I think Chin did leave us some notes that she wanted to mention. We read something because we don't want to leave Chin out. Chin is, we're going to read a little something from what Chin was just showing us about, just poverty before we hit to a final thoughts. We don't like to leave Chin out, and Chin, she wanted to make sure that y'all know that she's going to be some way, somehow a factor on this show.
Oh, most definitely.
Right?
So this is from, I guess, worldwide. This is from the UNICEF.
Yes.
So 1 billion children worldwide are living in poverty, according to UNICEF. That's 22,000 children die each day due to poverty.
Wow. That's an eye-opener. So Chin leaves that status, and thank you, Chin. Shout outs to the
She
plug-in.
has another one.
She has another one. Oh,
yes,
sorry.
yes.
Chin stack it up,
yes.
man. Okay, let's hear it.
80% of the world population lives on less than $10 a day.
What's the percentage?
80%.
80%.
Yeah. 80%.
If that doesn't blow your mind, 80% is an exclusively huge percentage of people living under that means. And I'm thinking about it now because, Chin gave us these notes, and this is what draws the conclusion now. So P, final solution. You are in charge of the world. And listeners, you're all in charge of the world. You have the solution to poverty. Everyone's all ears.
I have a bunch of solutions to poverty.
Let's hear them. Let's conclude on that.
I guess creating more jobs.
Yes.
That's one of them.
Yes.
Actually providing free healthcare or providing affordable healthcare.
Yes.
Well, in Canada here, our healthcare is free, but in other countries, they're not. And if you cannot make yourself okay and feel better and you're sick and you have to find that money, especially if you don't have a job, where are you getting that money to pay for those services?
Yes.
So having healthcare or affordable healthcare is something that's a must. Actually,
I love it.
In communities, like I've said before, organizing and getting together and helping one another get out of poverty.
Yes.
Understanding how to grow your crops. Like if you live in a warm country, and yes, the rain may fall every so often, but, put it in rain buckets, start growing your own crops.
Yes.
And, come together with your village or your community and, you guys grow something together.
I love it. Yeah.
Grow abundance of fruits and veggies,
I love it.
Also, setting up yourself for that rainy day, listeners out there, if you guys drive a car, you have insurance.
Yes.
Right? Insurance, you may never use it.
That's right.
But insurance is a what-if policy.
Yep.
Just in case policy type of thing. So have insurance, have insurance for your health. Also have insurance for your, your life,
Yeah.
Have insurance for your home. Just like you have insurance for your car, have it for your home too. It's important.
Absolutely.
You never know when a natural disaster would happen and your place floods. Where are you going to get the 50 grand to finish your basement?
Very true.
You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, those things can help with the solution. And be mindful, Other people are going through poverty, but, don't shun these people out. Yeah, And also education is very important because a lot of people in poverty areas don't have the education, so they don't have the understanding to know
Very
better,
true. Very true.
So I believe if they had the proper education, they would be able to do better.
Yes.
Yeah. How about you, Jay?
Well, you know what? Those are great points. And P, I'm not going to lie to you. Viewers, I'm not going to lie to y'all either. Chin, I know you're listening. I ain't going to lie to you. I'm going to steal one of P's thoughts from a couple of weeks. I would say maybe a month ago.
Yeah.
P mentioned a point which actually stemmed on me. She said, I'm trying to remember and quote, I might paraphrase it, but she was indicating that there's enough to go around.
Yeah.
On a global scale. So I'm saying be content.
Yeah.
When you said that, P, I don't know if you remember saying that. I do.
I think that was in the business. Was
I
it the
think it
business?
was. Yeah, I think it was
Yes,
the business one.
there is.
That struck a nerve. It struck a lock. It struck a chinny hair. It struck circulation in my body. That is so key. There's enough to go around. Why not be content?
Yes.
I mean, we put so much dollars into all these Valentine's Day, Easter. I don't keep all those things, but I'm just putting it out there. This Halloween, Pancake Tuesday, St. Patty's Day is today, isn't it?
No, it's next week.
Oh, it's next week?
Yeah, I think it's on the 17th or the 16th.
Oh, see, there you go. But we put so much into
Yeah.
financial resources when that can be actually substituted for helping those who are in need.
Yes.
Be content. And I thank you, P, for mentioning that because, like I said, that was so essential. And that was, remember, that was based on business. But why can that not be based on poverty?
Oh, definitely.
Or based on
yeah.
growth? You know what I mean? Based on unity. Be content, viewers. You know what I mean? We can definitely help one another. I think that's why we're here on this earth, to really unify and be one, you know what I mean, in mind, in body, right? And in truth. I think that collectively together, you know what I mean? It's a beautiful thing. If the children can do it, how come we as adults can't do it? When you think about like little kids, when because I work in an environment where there's preschoolers and they all get along together. There's no division. There's no greed. There's no, I need to stomp on you.
Because they're being taught, you remember when you're young and you're going to preschool, you're being taught to do things together.
It's true.
When you're an adult, you forget those things, and then there's so many factors that play into that. You know, you want to do better than another human being. You know, you're not. You know, this person is nothing. You know.
Yeah.
So we don't have that unification. So it's important that we all come together to be unified and as one, because we are one human race, which is the human being here. That
I agree.
You cut a man in half. What's flowing there? He has a heart. You have a heart, right? Blood is in there. Yeah, you got veins. You got lungs.
Exactly.
Yes. So we need to come together.
Yes, you know what I mean. It's beautiful, and like I said, man and woman. You know what I mean. Child and senior. We need to come together, like P said. I mean, that's our solution. So, audience, once again, you heard it from Superhero P, Superhero J. But if you were the superhero to end the evils of poverty, how do you do it? Let us know in the comment section below. This is Plug in Your Mind. We thank you so much for tuning in. I mean, those are our final thoughts, and we look forward to hearing yours. So with that being said, I'm signing off. P.
Y'all have a blessed week, guys, and take care.
And if I could do Chid's voice, I would, but she's saying goodbye and she loves y'all as well.
Yes.
All right, take care. Bless.